Let's try that again. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing well.
I am good. I'm good. I see Ariane jumped on early. So I have them coming on at 2:30.
Okay.
Yeah, Ariane, she's just an early starter, this girl. She just likes
Because
to be
if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, don't bother going.
Amen,
I feel
sister.
I feel
So,
My hair is kind of crazy today, I guess.
oh, it's okay. You could have crazy hair day. Look at this. This is pandemic hair. Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same, really.
A lot. So my name is Mary Beth Olive. I've been a team leader. Well, I was a team leader for 12 years. I've been with KW since 2004. I have taken on the role of director of productivity for, well, with the #2 office in the country right now is Ridgewood, New Jersey. That is where my license is. However, we're part of a 5-office conglomerate, amazing organization called Bergen County Partners.
Okay.
So we have about 1,700 agents here. I don't think that we all have amazing Ohio referral partners.
Oh, you're fine.
So no, so I mean, what I do value relationships like you,
Yeah.
in that I can connect when I have somebody for Ohio for sure. Right. But we were, and before I let Seth in, so we were watching you, and a few of our agents got really inspired, that you were bold and you stepped off that team and where you've taken your production. And I love that Coach was a part of it. So I just want to do a little bit of interviewing and inspiring. They're probably going to have questions about your business.
Oh yeah, I have a little, kind of a little presentation. It's probably about half hour-ish.
Awesome.
That kind of will answer more questions, hopefully, than it raises. But yeah, I'm excited about this.
Good. So we can get into that. We can get into that more in the beginning. Then instead of letting them ask questions, we'll do questions after you do your presentation.
Yeah.
And Michelle Payoella, she has just joined us. Michelle, say hi to Chris.
Hello.
First time on Zoom. Hi. I can never find the unmute.
Get used to it. It is here to stay.
Yeah.
I just had a closing last week that I never actually met the seller in person. We had only Zoom meetings.
That's awesome. We love to hear that. So Michelle is one of my rock stars that was like, I want to hear a little more from that. So we want to thank Michelle for giving me that nugget, and then me reaching right out to Chris. And I think we're going to have a good partner here in Ohio. Also, yeah. Seth Diamond is on the call, and you'll see more jump on. Like I said, 2:30 is when they're coming on.
Yeah.
But while we're here, do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little and tell Chris about yourself and what areas you work in and what your goals are?
Sure, I'll start. So we're obviously all in the Ridgewood, New Jersey Market Center. I work a little bit north of that. I'm also licensed in New York, so Rockland County. My main towns are like Mahwah, Ramsey, which is like northern Bergen County. So for me, my goal this year was 8.25 million. I'll probably get close. My business last year was terrible. I think I sold 5 houses. So anything than last year. So and I think I'm like, capping at the end of this month, which I'm super excited about. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Awesome. Chris, when we say 8 million, what is your average price point there?
130,000.
Chris has to sell a lot more homes, ladies and gentlemen. So we're because I saw the eyes at the 8 million, right? The 8 million, how many deals does that represent, Michelle?
It'll probably be close to 15, maybe 12. There's some rentals in there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yes. All right.
Wow.
And so our average price is about 550 if you take all of the market centers into consideration. However, we have some areas where your average is more like 8. Some of our agents, their average could be over 1 million.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot.
Chris, you want to move? We got space for you here.
I have worn a lot of hats in this industry. And I have coached agents who sell $1 million houses on the regular. And I'll tell you, I would not trade my cost of living for the world. I don't know if you guys have talked much about freedom numbers. If you haven't, I highly recommend that you start talking about freedom numbers. My freedom number is $2,700 a month.
Okay. So
I live on a
But-
house with an acre of land.
Okay, so Chris is talking about freedom numbers. Like, what would you need to bring in for the month so that you could live completely passively? And he's saying 2,700. Most, and I just want to put this in perspective. Most of us on this call, 2,700 is our tax bill monthly. So it's and that's our property tax on top of our income tax, on top of everything.
That's nuts.
So what happens is in areas, and we'll get into it. So what happens is in areas that your average price point is lower, your skill base, you have to be on point, because if you don't sell 20, 60, 80 homes, you may not be able to stay in the business. Fortunately, and I tell this to our agents all the time, it is a beautiful thing to be in a price point where the average is about 400 or 500, where it could go up to 8. And the life that we could provide. And to your point, our cost of living is definitely more, and yet our opportunity is bigger, and the same amount of work that you'd put in 100 or 200 average price point. So
Oh, absolutely.
anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I want to, we do have a few others that are going to be joining us.
Yeah.
I see we have Seth, we have Michelle, Hugo and Nicole are together. Nicole just capped recently, so we're real excited and proud of her. And Chris, our cap is in the 30,000 mark. So our cap is 37, 35, 33 now. So our agents will have to bring in well, not Nicole. And so we see chuckles there, but we'll talk about that later. Culture girl. Okay. 33,000 is the cap. But so what it means is our agents have to do about 110, 120 in order to cap. So, okay, that's the bar. So I see Seth, Michelle, Kathy Verbeek, give a little wave. Kathy is one of our foundational coaches also. And Arlene is a little bit, Arlene, wave it out. Okay, that's Arlene. She's a foundational coach as well. And then we have Nabila. Nabila is also licensed only in New York. And let's see, we have Laura and we have Ariane and Mike. So Chris Phares is here. Chris Phares, he is from, I think it's Liberty Township, Ohio?
Yeah, Liberty Township, Ohio, right between
Awesome.
Cincinnati and Dayton. Okay.
Awesome. So introduce yourself. Go with it.
Yeah. So for those of you who saw on the masterminds, I made a quick comment about how I'm actually an introvert trying to find $500,000 of GCI. I will tell you that if you are an introvert, and this does not feel like it until you unlock it, but if you are an introvert, you will excel longer and at a higher level in real estate if you just give it, you just give in to being an introvert. Stop trying to listen to everybody else and how they sell houses, because it's not going to work for you. It's never going to work for you, and it has never worked for you to begin with. That was totally off script. Anyway, so I kind of have just a small little presentation that I think answers a lot of the questions. My MAPS coach is the one who actually suggested that I do this. And
awesome.
So I'm just going to kind of jump into it.
Okay, go ahead, Jason, if you wouldn't mind giving Chris some co-host ability so he can go ahead and share screen.
Yeah, I do need to share my screen. I didn't even think about. Good job, Mary Beth. On it.
Awesome. And Chris was a guest at our fall masterminds, and most of you were on fall masterminds, but if you were not, he was hosted with Abe Shreve and he interviewed him. His coach is Jay Ritchie, right?
Yeah.
And some of us know Jay because Jay also did a book club at the One Thing for the Ridgewood Market Center. So Chris has been coaching with Jay, and a lot of his successes come from his coaching with Jay. So.
Oh, absolutely. Jay is an incredible human being. Don't let him fool you.
Thank you.
So a little bit about me. In this presentation, there's kind of 3 big points that I'm going to need you to understand. And the first 2 are kind of tied up into who I am as a person. So it kind of tells you about myself, and we'll jump right into that 3rd point, which is most of what we're going to talk about today. A little background on me. My papa is a dirt farmer. My father is a preacher who pastors a homeless shelter in Cincinnati. And so one of the first takeaway there is something that my life has taught me, is that there are only 2 types of people, and putting people in boxes is part of what is going to help you succeed in real estate. And the TV is going to tell you it's a bad thing. I promise you it's not. There are, from the depths of the ocean to the tops of the mountains, anywhere that there are people, they will fall into one of 2 categories. people that think and feel with their minds, and people that think and feel with their bodies. And so, the easiest way to understand this is ask them how they feel about Las Vegas, Nevada, and you'll find out real quick. The people who love Las Vegas are the thinkers and the feelers with their bodies. The people who hate it are the thinkers and feelers with their minds. And the center point, being able to cross that bridge and truly understand what it's like to think and feel as somebody else, is something that we call charisma. Charisma is a skill. It is a skill that you can learn. I learned it from homeless men at a homeless shelter. You can learn it from anywhere. But all charisma is understanding that I don't think and feel the same as somebody else does, but I need to communicate something to them. And so you can define that, you can start learning that skill once you define it. I have been around since 2009 in one way, shape, or form. I've worn a lot of different hats in this industry. I'm licensed since 2014. I am an introvert. On the DISC profile, I break the C metric. I literally score 100%. My MAPS coach made me take it 3 times, and all 3 times I break the C scale. I am very low on everything else, but my next highest is the F. And so I have a interesting perspective that details are my thing. I joke that it's a superpower that I can understand very complicated things in a very quick manner. And if you are a high C, or you are on a team and your team does not have a high C, you need to get yourself a high C. Find them at Starbucks, find them at the grocery store, find them anywhere, pay for them to go to real estate school. There is not a successful real estate team in this country that is not backed by a high C, I promise you. Mm-hmm. And so part of that is I have consumed, I think, every real estate self-help business book that I can get my hands on. I've read them all, some of them twice. And I promise you that the biggest takeaway from all of that is nobody understands what they're doing. We are all practicing real estate. That real estate is a practice. And this is something that if you take one thing away, is this is a practice. Any ground that you gain or lose can be brought back because it's a practice. You have to show up. And unfortunately, when we are all kids in high school, our coaches say you'll play how you practice. But the part about being an adult that they don't tell you is there is no play. It is all practice. And so whatever you define yourself as is yesterday's definition. And so that's the second point of all of this, is that there is 2 sides to simplicity. And there's the simplicity of the beginner, and there's the simplicity of the master. And it's very hard to tell the difference, and that's what makes life hard. But the simplicity of the beginner is built in a way that says, I don't know all of the solutions, but I know a solution. And I'll use an illustration of apples here. The simplicity of the beginner finds one way to prepare an apple. Maybe it's an apple pie. And then they say, okay, that's great. I can make money selling apple pies. And then they go out to the marketplace and they buy every apple that they can get their hands on, and they make all these pies. And they think, oh, it's so simple. Make apple pies, they sell, I make money. Except for that's how that works for yesterday. Maybe those apple pies don't sell today. Maybe it's a seasonal thing. The simplicity of a master says that I have consumed everything that I can, and I have found that all of the right answers are attached by an invisible string. And that invisible string is the simplicity of it. And so with that, that's kind of a little bit about me, how I got here, where I'm going. I'm going to share my screen here. Pardon me, because I'm getting options that are not my normal options. Okay. Again, remember, I'm an introvert. I hate being on camera. So
You're doing great. Thank you.
so this is the meat and the potatoes of this. So I'm going to kind of walk you through this and create a spreadsheet together. And I don't know if there's anybody else on this call who's a high C. I'm guessing that Arlene is, just by how many things she has hanging on the wall behind her. I've got, trust me, it takes one to know one, Arlene. That by the time this is said and done, the spreadsheet will be filled in and hopefully a lot of questions will be answered. This is the simplicity that is the mastery of real estate. And I will tell you at the end of this, it will make more sense, but I also like to call this presentation the Red Book, but using golf scores. And so I don't know if there are any sports fans in the call today, but that's a throwback to Muggsy Bogues, who, if you're not a sports fan, just know that he's the only person who's ever played in the NBA at a high level that is less than 5 foot tall. And he said that the secret to his success is that he took everything he learned and inside his head scored it by the word and kept score like it was golf. So the lower amount of words you use, the simpler a thing is, the more value it has. And so there are really, when it comes to real estate, there's really only 2 ways to keep score. The first way is how many people you talked to today. Yesterday does not matter. Tomorrow does not matter. How many people you talked to today. And then there is how many people talked to you today. Everybody with me so far?
How would you differentiate you talking to them talking to you?
Awesome question. So you talking to them is you taking the initiative to start the conversation. This is cold call. This is sending out mailers. This is, you know, for those people who do it, talk to people in line at the grocery store about real estate. The only thing that matters here is, did you talk to them about real estate or did they talk to you about real estate? And there is always, I'm going to put a 25 here, and then I'm going to make this actually, and I'll put 100. Sorry, pressing too many buttons at once. Put 100 here. So 100% of your day is represented in this column. For just to show it, this is 25, and so that would mean that this has to be 75, right? And all of the nuances of every real estate book that you've ever read or didn't read will tell you that they have the answer, and the answer is do these simple steps and it's all going to make sense. But at the end of the day, everything's going to fall into one of these 2 categories. If you are the type of person who likes to take leads, that's how many people talk to you today. And I'll tell you, most of the people in our industry are falling into this trap. This is Facebook marketing. This is paying Zillow for leads. This is whatever lead source that your market center team or brokerage is supplying to you. This isn't I'm going out and getting them. This is they are coming to me. And at the end of the day, the simplicity is that idea that as long as you have 20 to 30 real estate conversations a day, there's a 3X rule. And this is straight out of the Red Book. I'm just packaging it a little differently. That say you talk to 25 people a day, you can expect to close 75 deals a year. Doesn't that make the Red Book way more simple? Instead of all of the equations, it's a 3X rule. And so if you spend 25% of your effort talking to other people, you need to spend 75% of your effort waiting for people to talk to you. That looks like a lot of sitting around and waiting for Zillow to send you that lead. And that is something that we can plan. That is all of this comes down to projectable metrics. And when you are spending money on leads, you need to ask what the projectable metrics are. We all get those phone calls that say, hey, come put your face on these shopping carts, or around here we get a lot of calls for golf courses and things of that nature. The first question, let me put my face back on screen here, hold on. The first question you need to ask is, what is the projectable metric? If I put my face on all these shopping carts, how many people are going to talk to me a day about real estate? And you need to know what your numbers are for your own goals, but it's a 3x rule. 25 conversations a day is 75 closings a year. 50 conversations a day is 150 closings a year. And so price point doesn't matter. GCI doesn't matter. The simplicity of it is set your goals in the most simple way possible, and then set yourself up for success with using the 3x rule. 3x rule is out of the Red Book, and that's the second time that they talk about mailers and cold calls and mets and haven't mets. And all of those things are very important, but those are all fine tunes. You're fine tuning an approach. But the thing that nobody is telling us as real estate agents is that it will always come down to how many people did you talk to today about real estate and how many people talk to you. And so when I'm talking about on masterminds, when I was talking about my great awakening, what we call it in my family, it comes down to that. It's nothing else matters. Not everything else is noise. This is the simplicity of the master that just says, you know what you know. And if you don't know it, you're lying to yourself because you know it. And I'm not going to like call on anyone here, but you should be able to know how many real estate conversations you had yesterday. How many real estate conversations did you have last week? And the fun part is you should be able to know how many real estate conversations you're going to have tomorrow. You should know how many real estate conversations you're going to have next week. That is not only doable, but that's what I would argue is the most important part. On my team, we call that showing up and doing your job. And
you said it was quantifiable metrics, right? Quantifiable metrics.
Yep.
In your interview, projectable metrics. And so what I'm gathering here is that you're going into your days, into your weeks, knowing, who you're going to be calling and contacting. And
yep.
And so talk to us a little bit about that. Like, how have you organized? I think you said 100 to 150 phone calls will get you 20 to 30 contacts daily, which is what you're doing.
Yep. And we set down on literally the 1st of October every year. We run our year October to October. That's because that's our capping year. But we sit down at the beginning of October and we plan every week out, that between here and there, what we're doing. We call for sale by owners on Mondays. We circle prospect on Friday. We know that when you get into projectable metrics, it's a lot of data keeping. That's why I said at the beginning, if you do not have a C that you are working with, you need one, because the high Cs you're not going to have to ask them to keep spreadsheets. They're going to keep spreadsheets, and they're probably going to use them against you when they want something to change. It's just how we work. It just is what it is. Nothing is real unless it's in my schedule. Nothing is real unless it's on my spreadsheets. And so when I go to send out 250 mailers, I know that I'm going to get exactly 4.8% response rate. It doesn't matter what the mailers are. It matters that you send them. And when you're planning out your year, that's how you can get those projectable metrics. That's the difference a projectable metric makes, is you should be able to know pretty quickly, by the end of the afternoon, if you jump into your own numbers, how much money you're going to make next year, based on how many conversations you're going to have a day. And it doesn't matter how those conversations happen, but they're going to fall in one of two categories. They're going to call you, or you're going to call them. And so then you just pick your poison and go. Turn the volume up on what works. And if you don't know how many mailer responses you're going to get, send out 25. Do that for a month. Then you're going to know. If you don't know how many phone calls you need to make to talk to the number of people that you need to do, pick up the phone and dial as many people as possible until you get to that number. Now you know. Do that consistently for a month, keep track of your data, and then you'll know. And it's the hardest part of our job is consistency. And all of the books, all of the gurus, all of the coaches, all of the different approaches are thinly veiled attempts at keeping you interested and showing up to work every day. And so if you want the wealth that comes with being a real estate agent, especially in this day and age, because let's be honest, we are the beneficiaries of inflation. You have the opportunity in the next 3 years to create the kind of generational wealth that your kids are going to have to pay more taxes than you made last year when they inherit your stuff. And so this is the time, just do it. It's just doing it. And if you need bells and whistles to keep you interested, you're doing it wrong. It doesn't matter how many conversations you need to have. What really matters is how many conversations are you going to have? And the answer to that is, I love cold calling for sale by owners. And so I know that when I put that on my schedule every Monday, I look forward to Mondays. I hate circle prospecting. That's why it's on Fridays, because if I can make my goal before Friday, I take Friday off. Because it's all projectable metrics. That's the gift that taking all of the noise out of our jobs gives you is it's peace of mind, it's presence with your family, it's presence with yourself. Some people like to go on vacation, some people like to stay home, but at the end of the day, it's all about options. And when you move into a projectable metric, you give yourself options. So you wake up on a Monday, you don't want to call for sale by owners. That's fine, but you got to talk to 25 people today. How are you going to do it? You don't want to prospect, then pay Zillow. Zillow's going to sell you conversations. All of the paid marketing, what they call leads are conversations. And do the math on how much you have to pay Zillow for 25 conversations. And I bet you don't want to pay Zillow for 25 conversations.
Well, you said also in your interview about your budget, you actually created a budget which forced you to spend money, which I think for some of us in the stage of their business, they need to hear that message because. Okay.
Yeah. Budget is a really interesting part. Like I said, my papa was a dirt farmer, and I grew up at the homeless shelter. So spending money is really hard for me. I come from a long line of scarcity mindset, and it's very hard for me. So when you move into a budget, even a basic budget of, and it all starts with knowing how many conversations you're going to have every day, and then you budget accordingly. And so, if you need 25 a day and you don't want to make any calls and you don't want to pay Zillow, maybe paying an ISA makes sense. But you don't know that until you get into your budget. And the budget is basically, you can sit down with a piece of paper and say, how much money do I want to make, and how many conversations do I need to have? How much money do I need to spend to get to those conversations? And then all of a sudden you're not talking about money in a way that is spending or not spending. You're talking about money in a way of what does it get me?
Investing, I think you used.
Yeah, it's an investment. And I know that I can spend $2,000 a month on my back end ISA, who they handle my paperwork. They make sure that they manage me. They make sure that I'm having the right number of conversations, because I know that by spending that $2,000 a month, I will have the right number of conversations. And when I have the right number of conversations, I'll have enough money to pay for that back end ISA. And, it's also helpful to make a mental list of the parts of your job you like and the parts of the jobs that you don't like. One of the biggest lies in our industry is that mega agents do it all. I've coached mega agents. I've been on teams with mega agents, and I've worked for mega agents. I promise you, they do less work than you do. because they know their budgets, they know where to spend their money, they know what parts of their life they want to get back. And so what makes a mega agent isn't the number of contacts they have in command or how many people that they know down at the PTA. It's what makes a mega agent is their ability to manage other people. And so if you want to be a real estate agent, be a real estate agent. If you want to be a team leader, be a team leader. You might have to be a real estate agent to get to that point, but don't stop, because that's why our industry has such big turnaround. That's the 90-10 rule is if you want to be a team leader, but you don't know how to do it, it starts with your budget, and nobody wants to talk about the budget because that's not, we're not raised to talk about money in a way that in a way of what does it buy us, how much life does it give us back. And I'll be honest with you, I look at my budget as a way of keeping score, and I'm competing with myself from last year. And so, you know, if I can buy more leverage that makes my score higher this year than it does last year, then I'm winning. And winning is winning.
More leverage. Love it.
So,
and you also spoke to social media. I like how you kind of, what do you feel about social media?
That's the one that I have gotten a lot of phone calls about how I said I stopped Facebook. And I will tell you, I've gotten, most of the phone calls I've gotten are agents who say, I built my business on Facebook. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, why did you stop? And the people in my market center are the ones who called me the most because they knew my Facebook presence. At one point in time, I was spending, according to the app on my phone, 7.5 hours of my day on Facebook. And I was following the models that the books taught. Go into the neighborhood groups, find people who ask questions, people who need plumbers. Hey, I've got a plumber. You know, be the go-to expert of your Facebook search group or your Facebook reach. And I'll tell you that it got me nowhere. Facebook is a popularity contest, and unless you're a prom queen, you're gonna lose. You might win today, but you're gonna lose. And what are you gonna do if Facebook changes the algorithm, which they do daily? What are you gonna do when Instagram says, oh, we're moving to stories instead of posts? And you sat down last October and you made a posting schedule. You have no control over it. And so give up the things you can't control and replace them with projectable metrics. That's where the freedom lies, is those projectable metrics. And so when you're talking about your Facebook presence or your Instagram presence or your TikTok presence or your YouTube presence or anything that involves reaching massive amounts of people with minimal amounts of effort, ask yourself, why are you competing with 12-year-olds? And like, let that hang. Like, why are you competing with 12-year-olds for attention? And is that somebody that you want to hire to handle the largest investment of your life? But you can spend that same amount of time that I was spending in those Facebook groups actually in the neighborhoods. Hold open houses like they're parties. Like I hire lemonade stand girls to come to my open houses.
Aww.
I've learned that when you get out from behind the screen, you become a real tangible person. And not only does it make every transaction easier because people see you as a real person, not just some sort of perfect, you know, photoshopped thing, but you're also coaching the soccer team, and you're in the neighborhoods, you're in their daily lives, and you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. And I know that, you know, especially when you get into a higher price point here in Ohio, those people they're not on social media. But the guy who has is better at dodging the bill collector than paying the bill. Oh, he's on Facebook every day. So you're fighting 12-year-olds for the lowest quality lead.
Mm.
And why are you doing that? Probably because somebody told you that they did it and it worked really well for them. And it's just time to take control of your business. It's time to step in and say, when I do X, Y will happen. And when I spend 7.5 hours on Facebook, the only thing I can guarantee is that maybe 250 people will see my post. But those aren't conversations about real estate. That's somebody saying that I know a plumber.
Mm-hmm. I love this point though, because when we look at it, the quantifiable metric on the Facebook, there is none, right? I mean, we could say, well, I got one transaction. Well, was it because of that or the relationship prior to you being their friend on Facebook? But you can get out and put door knockers on a neighborhood that you want to take listings in and bring it to them. You can go and circle prospect in a neighborhood. You could hold the open house. So you could put those hours in. And I just think we've gotten into, what about the day that Facebook went down? Did everybody freak out? Everybody was freaking out. Facebook, Instagram, why can't I post? Oh my goodness. It didn't change the market.
Think of it as a GCI return as well. You could go down to your neighborhood church and volunteer for 2 hours a day and put a bigger P on your P&L than you can doing almost anything else. You can spend as little time being a real estate agent as you want. To be completely transparent with you, one of the newest pieces that we added here for us is a full-time phone dialer who's calling the for sale by owners and setting appointments. I'm spending $35,000 a year in salary for that person, but I slept in, went to the grocery store, and hung out with my 2-year-old today, and I have 3 listing appointments after this.
Awesome.
So when it comes back, taking that back to budget, buy your listing appointments, don't buy your buyers. The buyers are going to come, and the Red Book tells us that 2 to 3 buyers is the same workload as 15 listings. And with an average sale price of, let's say $500,000, what's the GCI difference between those two?
A lot.
And so if you're gonna spend money, buy your listing appointments and use your listings to leverage other listing appointments. Use your listings to leverage the same place that you were using social media for. Social media, I will say, is different now than it was 5 years ago. But 5 years ago, we were calling Facebook our 33 touch program. And now we have a rule in my MAPS group that it doesn't count as a touch unless you can touch them. Phone calls don't count. And so executing a 33 touch program just got a lot more involved. But that's because so many people have read this Red Book and have turned to automation.
You froze for a second, but you said so many have read the Red Book and turned it into automation of the 33 touch, the 36 touch. He's going to come back. You guys should get some questions. There you are. And you're muted though. And I was just reiterating, you just said that we've automated the 33 and the 36 touch.
Yeah.
And we've gotten out of the personal relationship of a pop by, a phone call, a happy birthday. We've gotten away from that. And even the happy birthdays are automated happy birthday messages, which they're not hitting the way that they used to. It's not the card in the mail or the phone call. It's the email that they get or the Facebook post that we figured, oh, I said happy birthday to everybody. Well, so did 245 people today. Do you think they saw it? They didn't see it.
You want to play a game?
Yeah.
Change your Facebook birthday to a birthday that's not yours. And see how many people actually know your birthday, because that's not a lot. Maybe it's maybe your mom. If you're lucky, your wife.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. So that's kind of the
So-
presentation in a nutshell. The simplicity of it is turning to projectable metrics will give you your life back. And it takes, in my personal journey, I'm no longer on anti-anxiety meds. I am sleeping better. I'm spending more time with my family, and my life all of a sudden became intentional because my job wasn't my life anymore.
Mhm.
So,
Love it.
so that's first half hour there. I wanted to save the second half hour for conversation and questions.
Okay, so we have about 20 minutes. And I would love to hear some questions come towards Chris on what I took 3 pages of notes. So what are some ahas? What are some questions that we have for Chris?
So I have a question when you're talking about mailers. So your mailers,
Yeah.
you say just start with 25. Are you mailing to the same 25 every?
Yeah, it's the
month?
red book model. Here. This is actually a returned mailer, so you can kind of get an idea. But it's the red book model that every 50 that you mail to once a month over 12 months will equal 1 listing.
So once a month.
So once a month over 12 months is 1 listing. That's the numbers I started with. And then part of what I do on mailers, this is kind of a behind the scenes cheat sheet, is I include a QR code and that says, if you are not ready for a real estate agent, but are curious about your home's value, scan this QR code. Then we have, that's the code itself there.
I love that you put, if you're not ready, like you're just calling it out. I know you're not ready, but you're curious. Scan the
And
code.
that goes to conversation starters. We include mailers as people talking to us, not us talking to people, because of that QR code. And if we want mailers to be us talking to people, but people not talking to us, we don't include the QR code. But that QR code, after about a year, gave us about 1,000 people who were just curious what their houses were. And then we moved our mailers, instead of neighborhood farming, onto that list. That's where we got our 250 a week number, is we had 1,000 people who had raised their hand over the first year.
I
And so
like
then-
that. And what was the area? Like you had 1,000, but how many homes do you think you hit in total?
We only send out 1,000, but to get to that list of 1,000, it was 260 a week because stamps come on in sets of 20.
Okay.
And so we just and what we did is we picked our average price point, and we said, for us, this is probably funny to you guys. We said if the house is worth at least $100,000, we'll include them on our mailers list. And then we send that out. And the mailers, I will encourage you, as you simplify your lead gen, you'll notice that every piece of your business all of a sudden becomes simple. And you'll start seeing simplicity in things like the grocery store. It's a glass breaking moment when you realize that the things that you actually respond to in other people's marketing are the most simple versions of what could possibly be. So our letter, you can see it there. I don't know if that's backwards or not. It says, hello, you'll be happy to know that one of your neighbors at this address sold their house for this much, and one of your neighbors at this address sold their house for this much. Would you be interested in selling your home? Text or call us. 4 sentences. Over and over again to the same people every month. And as we're getting listings off of our mailers list, I'm asking them, what is it that you remember about our letter? And they said, you only sent us 1, right? So, but when it comes to mailers, that's kind of the story there.
Cool.
And
Just my follow-up question on the mailers. Are you calling those people, or is that part of your, no, you're just letting them call you based on the QR code? Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. we figure that when the QR code is there, they know how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of cool.
We figure when the QR code is there, they know how to get a hold of us.
Okay.
And we are looking for life by design. We want people to call us instead of us calling people.
Right.
That's our end goal. And mailers are leading that charge.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
So Mike Geller, he has a baby at the house, so that's why he's listening. He can't talk, but he wanted to know, what's the first thing a new agent should invest in regarding building the business?
Vulcan 7.
Vulcan 7. I believe we have a couple Vulcan 7 owners on the call. And what do you love about Vulcan 7? And I think it's less than 200 a month.
Here we're paying 300.
Okay.
And sorry, Mary Beth, if you ask nicely, your market center might provide that for you. And when I was coaching new agents on somebody else's team, I would tell them that it's part of the cost of doing business, because it is an all-in-one solution that I like to say takes all of the excuses away. You have a dialer. You have the ability to look up anybody by address. You can map search. You can even go into the system and say, I only want to see people that live within this circle that I just drew on the map, that houses are worth at least $500,000. It will generate the list. It will give you their name. It will give you their phone number. It will tell you whether or not they're on the do not call list. Do not call the do not call list. And it will give you, most of the time, their email address. So a new agent who has budget to spend, it is the cheapest way to get the most opportunity. But I'll tell you, if you want to go the route of you talking to other people, it's really, you don't need it. It just makes it easier. But you can get those same lists by volunteering for the PTA. I think our first list was built by myself going to the Edgewood, which is our high school here, athletic department, and said, hey, I will take tickets for you if you let me talk to people about real estate. And then all I would say is, hey, I just started in real estate. If there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. Do you want me to put your email on my email list? And then I would get their email address, and then we kind of went from there.
So I hear you saying about Vulcan 7, you don't need it, and I got you, Arlene, you don't need it to execute the I'm calling people out. However, it makes it a whole lot easier. What we do have, though, we do have Cole Realty, which will give them some phone numbers and emails. And we also, inside of our tax system, they can also get some information. But Kathy, we hear the potential of Vulcan 7, right? Kathy's a Vulcan 7 owner.
I am.
Okay.
The quality of the information is very good, and the fact that you can put your notes in there is also very helpful. And it also, I was just looking at with another agent yesterday, and for circle prospecting, we were looking at off-market properties in terms of being able to reach people. So there's a lot there. Plus Vulcan 7 does a call like twice a week, which is you're hearing agents from like all different places, and you're getting ideas from it. So
Great.
There's also calls,
share it. Like I share it with another agent, so the cost goes down, and you just have to decide that you have rules that go along with it in terms of how you're going to handle those leads.
Yeah.
So something that I didn't hear you say that I really think that you should take advantage of if you're not doing it is understanding how quickly you can get to for sale by owners and expired through Vulcan 7.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing actually that I used in Vulcan 7 was the FSBO and expired. I mean, because it also has the dialer, you know, how many people that I could dial and it would just go through for myself in terms of it was also, you know, much more efficient.
And Nicole, I saw you wanted to say something, and then Arlene.
Yeah. Chris, how long were you an agent before you brought on an ISA?
4 months.
Okay. And then I apologize if I
You're
missed,
fine.
are you a team lead now? Do you have a big team, a small team?
No, so here in Ohio, I'm what's called a group. And the
Okay.
difference between a team and a group is a team has one licensed real estate agent, or I'm sorry, a team has multiple licensed real estate agents, a group has one. Through working with my MAPS coach and really questioning a lot of things, I went the group route because I need an appointment setter and I need somebody to handle the paperwork. And there's a lot of moving paper around in this job that is, when you are a high C personality, paperwork is infuriating because it's not as efficient as it should be, and it never will be as efficient as it should be because the stupid high Ds keep getting in the way and just keep doing stuff without thinking about it.
Coming from a high D.
But they,
He's right.
yeah. And so the idea is I went the group route so that way I can bring the right people on into the right pieces, whether they're licensed real estate agents or not.
Okay.
I don't know what it's like in your state, but nobody needs a license here unless you're the one who's actually doing the listing appointment or going on the showing. And so everybody else just kind of has their role. And then I'm the one who does those things.
So just to be clear, there are certain things that non-licensed, team members can not say, but for the most part, you could pretty much put a non-licensed person on the phone to talk to potential sellers, buyers. They just can't talk price. They can't talk things that the real estate agent would need to handle. So you'd have to just script them with, that's a great question. Could I have Nicole give you a call back so she can answer that for you?
Right.
Absolutely.
So Chris, do you have is it like a local person? Is it like a cyberbacker or?
I use a cyberbacker for my transaction coordinating.
Okay.
Those are the people that actually move the paper around.
Yep.
And then I went to a temp service here locally and said, hey, I need an appointment setter. And the temp service just sent me 2 or 3 people till we got to the right person. And then I brought them on. But we know that, like I said in the call, it's 150 phone calls a day, gets us to the right amount of contacts. We can do, using Vulcan 7 in the dialer, that's about 2.5 hours of work. And so I just, they do 2 hours, and then if they haven't hit the number goal for the day, I'll jump on and finish the number goal out. Again, the gift of projectable metrics is you're done when you're done.
Right. And so, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So your person jumps on Vulcan 7, calls your FSBOs expired, you're circled prospecting, but you manage your own database and relationships?
Kind of. I don't, I'm an introvert who's trying to sell real estate.
Okay.
And Gary Keller would hang me from the rafters for saying this, but I'm not real big on relationships. I'm a very transactional agent. And so I show up, I make promises, I keep promises, and I leave. So like if you're calling me to list your house, I'll show up, I'll tell you what I can do and what I can sell it for. And when we're done selling it, I don't stay in contact as much as the Red Book tells me that I should. And that is a gamble for me. But I'm gambling on the idea that 10 years from now, a 33 touch program is going to look very different because of how much automation we're using. And so it is what it is, but that's my approach.
Okay. Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And to be fair, I mean, you could eventually put someone in there that is just like client management and is the warm and fuzzies and calls through that database of now past clients to continue to generate business. But where you're at right now, we're talking, he broke off in June, it's October.
Yeah.
So
but that is the game plan for me. I plan on being retired in 4 years. And by retired, I mean, I just don't want to do anything I don't want to do. And so I'm building every role with the idea that somebody is going to be hired to do this at some point.
Love it.
And so that's the end goal. Seth, did you have a question?
And Arlene also.
No, I mean, it's actually fantastic as an introvert that you actually do the volume that you do, and that's great. Now, I don't know if you mentioned it. How did you start off getting this volume and getting? You said it took you 4 months to get an ISA, which is fantastic for an introvert. And I am one of two, by the way. I mean, people don't think that, but I really am, and I've grown up as one, and I still consider myself to be. How did you get your volume in 4 months to the point that you that you got an ISA, and how did you start that out?
So it comes with a promise. I can tell by how you asked that question exactly where your mind's going. I think we are a lot alike. It starts with keeping promises to yourself. That when I get to a point that I know how many phone calls I need to make a day to make my goals happen, I'm going to hire someone to do that. And so you can push through the exhaustion wall that comes with being an introvert in this job by saying, as soon as I have enough data, I'm going to hire somebody to do this part, and then just keep your promise to yourself. So for me, I told my family, hey, for the next 4 months, I'm going to be working a lot, probably the most I'll ever work in the next 30 years of my life. And I am just going, and I made a list of the different metrics I wanted to know that I didn't know. And then I made an effort to build out those metrics every single day until I was comfortable. So it took 4 months to get to the point that 150 means 25 conversations. And then I said, how many hours does that take? And then I went to the temp service right away.
So that's actually very interesting. So you started with data, like a lot of people say, start with the calls, start with talking to people. You didn't start talking to people. You started to really kind of just gathering data, and it's like, okay, I now have this much, so I now need to hire an ISA to do all this stuff for me so that I can just get in and get out.
Right. And then I know at 2 hours a day that I can put that in the budget and it's going to pay for itself. So one of the things that it's really hard to wrap your mind around until it clicks, for me at least, is that the budget, instead of looking at profits and losses, I only look at profits. And so how much money do I have to spend to make as much money as I want to make? And then I'm okay with spending it because I know it's going to pay for itself. And I know it's going to pay for itself because I have the numbers. That's the difference maps coaching made for me. Is my maps coach said, well, what do you not know? And he said, it's really great that you know all of these things, you've read all these books, and but you have a really academic understanding of real estate. What do you not know? And I said, well, and then he started with things like, how many doors do you need to knock on to have 25 conversations? I don't know. How many phone calls do you need to make? I don't know. And then he said, well, this is the language of real estate. This is what you need to know. And I said, oh, I don't want to go through all of that. Like, that sounds exhausting. I'll go get a job at Starbucks. And he said, well, what would it look like if you did know and you were able to hire that person, hire somebody to do it because you can trust it, because you do know? How many months of your life are you willing to exchange for financial freedom for the rest of it? And I said, about 6. And that's kind of was the jumping off point. Define what you don't know that you need to know before you hire somebody to do the things that need to happen. Does that make sense?
Yes. Arlene, I just want to get your question in before we have to go.
Okay, I'll try to be really brief. So I was listening to what you said. You started in 14, correct? 2014. Okay. How soon did you hire your coach? Like a maps coach or whatever?
Before, right?
Yeah. So I hired my maps coach when we came to Keller Williams. So in 2014, I got my license, and I was what in the corporate world called a fixer. So from 2009 to 2014, I jumped from real estate company to real estate company, and people hired me to assess their systems and tell them what they're doing wrong. And so in 2014, I found what at the time was a team that I really liked, and they were listening to me, and we just jived really well. So we started our own brokerage just for the fun of it. P.S. It's not as fun as it looks.
It's not.
And so that team became a brokerage, and I was the coach for that brokerage. And so I went from that point to 2019 at that brokerage. We had 300 and something agents when I left. Then I joined another team because I said, it's time to make real money because I'm an adult now and have a kid. And we were playing real estate before. I did a bunch of research, and I broke off 6 of them, and we went to Keller Williams, and then I hired my MAPS coach on the day that I realized that I'm not the rainmaker of this group. I had awesome, really supportive rainmakers, and we could have open conversations about it. And so I hired that MAPS coach to help map the way to get to where I'm at right now.
And then part 2. So with talking about your budget, and when you're talking either a new agent or experienced agent.
Yeah.
And you're in your October, you're setting your goals for the following year. Are you using the similar budget, or no, wait a minute. First off, for the budget for a brand new agent, what is there, like a formula that you can say, like, new agent might?
And it's the same actually, no matter you're a new agent or you've been doing this for 30 years, your budgets really need to look the same, because, and there's going to be a lot of people that tell you that this is wrong, but it's back to the simplicity piece. How much money does it cost to have the real estate conversations you need to have? And so the only difference between a new agent and an experienced agent is the experienced agent's budget is able to afford more leverage. But you need to, if you are a new agent or you're new to creating a budget, you need to have the mindset that the whole reason why I'm doing this is telling me where to spend my money, not if I can or can't spend my money. Right. And so, so when you first step into that budget world, as a new agent, you need to say, I'm building this as a way to tell me what to do when I'm ready to do it. And so it just comes down to, and this is the hardest part of it all, is how much money do you want to make next year? How many closings is that? Then divide that number by 3, because it's a 3x rule from the Red Book. That's how many conversations you need to have every day. And then if you don't want to spend the money, you don't have to. The extroverts of the world probably absolutely love the idea of, holding events or knocking on doors, whatever, and if you can get the right amount of conversations daily, on average daily. So like events, obviously you're not going to do one every day, but you might do one a month and 300 people come, and you need, that covers the amount of conversations you need to have every month, then you're good to go. But
okay. So like when I'm trying to talk to the newer agents and saying to them what to anticipate, I was trying to get it in my head, because similar to you, I'm kind of afraid to sometimes pay whatever. So I look at it as, okay, if I spend X amount for 3 months, like I don't want to look at that $35,000 a year for that person. I just want to look what it'll cost me for 3 months to test it. Am I on the right track with that, or is it something that should?
That is an approach, and to be honest with you, that's the approach that a lot of the books will teach you. But in my real world experience, maybe I'm just wrong here, but that's backwards. You don't need to test anything. You can know with absolute certainty what you need, and then the only thing that you're actually testing is, can this person set the appointment? So you're testing the person, but not the position.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so before you get them to that point, it always starts with how much money do you need to make next year? And, if the answer is $100,000, and how many transactions does it take to make $100,000? How many conversations do you need to have? And then how long? And then you might be able to take a new agent into a time investment conversation there of, if every conversation takes 5 minutes, do you have enough time in your day to have that many conversations? Because then you can bridge that conversation into, do you need a part-time job until you get it established?
Oh, good. Okay.
And
Excellent
so-
way to think about it, because they're spending so much money on fees just to join in that I hate to encourage additional, like, I want to go by the economic model more so than the, telling them to spend more money.
The budget model. Yeah.
Budget model.
I use, on that topic, I use exclusively the economic model for all of my projections. Because only thing you need to know is your conversion ratios between appointments set and appointments held, and appointments held to listings taken.
Right.
And so
All right,
a new
awesome.
you can get those numbers. You can get those numbers in 2 weeks for a new agent.
You can get those numbers in 2 weeks from them? Really?
Yeah, send them on 10 appointments. That's all you need.
Okay.
You just send them out on. You tell them, hey, your first 2 weeks, here are 10 appointments. It's a gift from the team, the brokerage, that whatever, and then track their conversions. And then you can say, with absolute certainty, again, trackable metrics. You went on 10 appointments. Of those 10 appointments, you were able to hold all 10. Congratulations, 100% hold ratio. You were able to list 5. That's a 50% conversion ratio. And of those 5, we're going to project that they close, because in this market, if you can't close, once you get it listed, if you can't close it, you lied to them to get the listing. It happens every day. Let's just call it what it is. It is what it is. And so, and then from that, you have all the ratios that you need to sit down in front of them and say, okay, you need to have 10 conversations every day. How are you going to do it? If those conversations take 10 minutes, that's what, 100 minutes? Do you have 100 minutes every day? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, well, how are we going to find that? Right. And but I was when I was in a similar position, my first question to new agents was, if you need cash flow, do you need a part-time job? And honestly, we would segue those part-time jobs into showing assistants for our high-performing agents.
Oh.
And so,
Okay.
2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. Not saying that it's a perfect approach, but it always worked for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Chris, we're over time, but do you have a few more
Yeah.
minutes? 2 more questions. Nabila's got her hand raised.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. You said that we should have 25 conversations a day, and that's with people who actually are engaged that are counted in the 25, or just the touches that you have made intentionally?
So that's a great question.
Thank you.
That's the question that I think that everybody will eventually gets to, is what counts as a conversation. And so we like to say that it's just a conversation about real estate. If you're counting the conversations you're having at the grocery store, work in the phrase, have you thought about moving recently? Do you need an equity analysis? Do you know how much money you're sitting on? That counts as a conversation. And
what if you
so,
talk to a group? Would you include each of those
one-on-one
groups?
conversations are the only thing that, because,
Oh.
well, how often do you talk to a group?
Right.
And so, if you can track that, say you talk to a group every Friday, then a group counts.
Okay.
But if it's not a replicable thing on a daily basis, it doesn't count.
Okay, thank you.
And 25 is just my number for 75 deals. I think it was Michelle that said that you needed 15 to live your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was based on my goal this year, but
So that's 5 conversations every day. And I don't mean to pick on you, I promise, but one of the things that I make that I make the people that I'm coaching do is that when we set our goal every year, they write 2 letters to their future selves and they give them to me. One of them is great. You had 5 conversations every day. One of them is, oh my God, I cannot believe you put me in this place, past self. It was just 5 conversations a day. And then at the end of the year, I send the appropriate letter. It hurts, it sucks,
Sure.
but it's the kind of pain aversion is the easiest way to motivate people.
Right. Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo.
Hi.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are kind of at the earlier stages of our career, not a ton of expendable monthly marketing or whatever. So if you had the choice and you can only choose one,
yeah,
you're a dialer ISA or a maps coach.
I think
Tough one.
it would depend on how many contacts I know that I can dial a day without hating my job. And so that's going to depend on the person. And so if you think that you can, it always starts with what is your goal and how many contacts I need to make. And so if it's 5 contacts a day, I'm going to pick a maps coach. If it's 50 contacts a day, I'm going to pick an ISA. It depends on the agent and what you think is doable for you. So it's kind of an individualized question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And you know, the hope and the thought process is maybe you have to do a year of one, and then after that year, you can afford the second. So,
right.
You know, right. So, you know, like Hugo and I and a few other people, I just wrapped my first full-time year and I need to do something else to continue to grow, but I cannot afford to do both.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So let me frame it this way for you. Maybe it'll make a little more sense. A maps coach does not guarantee conversations. Conversations are the only thing that guarantees future business, trackable metrics. And so if you are hitting your trackable metrics and you're saying, hey, I would like to make my goal bigger, that's when it's time to hire a maps coach. If you are not hitting your trackable metrics, you need to spend the money to whatever you need to do to get to that point. And I'll tell you, an ISA with a dialer might not be the answer for your market. But Kathy, you said you have Vulcan 7. How many people are on the do not call list, like percentage-wise, gut level?
Oh, I don't know. It's actually a fairly high percentage. I don't know what the number is, but it's a fairly high percentage. So like when I use the automatic dialer, there's a lot of things that like just go through and you only have a few contacts for the numbers that they can go through. You probably have, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 could be.
I would not hire an ISA at those levels. Because what are you paying them to do? They're contacting 1 out of every 20 people. I think at that point I would hire somebody who would send out some sort of direct marketing regularly. This is a piece that you could bring social media back into, but use Messenger instead of Facebook. Maybe instead of an ISA, hire somebody to have conversations all day long. Because at the end of the day, you just need to get to your conversation count. So I guess maybe if you need 5 conversations a day, 1 out of 20 isn't bad. But here, our do not call ratio is about 60%. So 4 out of every 10 are not on the do not call list. And then also take into consideration that, at least how my map coach explains to me, I haven't double checked this information. There is not a do not call list for their work phone numbers. And there is a do not call list. There isn't a do not call list for sale by owners. And so you could kind of look into that direction. But a big piece of circle prospecting is calling people and telling them that you're having an open house or you sold a house in their neighborhood. And if you don't have access to have those conversations with them, then it's probably not worth the investment.
Chris, would you say the same rule applies to expired? No,
actually, there's a case study right now that Keller Williams is involved with that people who have expired listings and are on the do not call list are suing Keller Williams, saying that they called me, and my number's on the do not call list.
Okay.
So if you would have asked me 3 months ago, I would have said, yeah, call every expired, whether it's on the do not call list or not. But after reading the case study, I went, that was wrong. That was the wrong approach.
Thank you.
So other ideas, specifically for you guys over there, Hugo, that I would look into is, do you have a rough idea of how many closings you need a year to make your goals happen? 10, is that what you said?
I need 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 24 deals a year is, let's call it a 50% rule, just for margin of error. You need to have 12 conversations a day. And so hiring an ISA for 12 conversations a day is probably not the first place I would go to. If I'm having 12 conversations a day, my first question is, who am I having the conversations with? And then trying to find maybe somebody who's a pillar of that community and bring them onto your team. Spend the same amount of money putting them through real estate school. And I'm talking things like the assistant fire chief or a city council member, something like that. And then you can look at the growth model that way, as bring the pillars into the community, and you won't have to, those 12 conversations won't cost you anything because they're already having them anyway. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's
an influencer, she could easily put more of her budget into hosting her events. If that's
are you event people?
I am, yeah.
How many events do you have a month?
Well, this was my first full-time year, and I had 2 large events, and I hosted a townwide garage sale twice.
Okay.
So
how many real estate conversations came from that?
I don't know how many, but at this point, the first garage sale was 100 people. Now they're all in my database, and they're getting like neighborhood nurtures. I called them all to say thank you. I called them all, blah, blah, blah. I keep in touch with them. And the second one was, 80 people, and same thing, called and thank you for joining, blah, 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 blah. Do you know anyone looking to buy or sell? That type of stuff.
Okay. So you need a database of 300 people to talk to 10 people a day.
Okay.
Right?
So yeah, I'm already there.
And so, then, you don't have to worry about do not call lists and things like that, because you already have the database. They gave you their phone number. You didn't just pull it off of the internet. So maybe the ISA makes sense to maintain those conversations. But then you need to look into your database to make sure that the listing percentage makes sense. If of all those people, only 3% of them are going to list regardless, then the opportunity isn't there.
Yeah.
Does the daily conversation calculation include weekends too, or Monday through Friday? Another great question. I use it as a motivator. If I don't make the number by Thursday, then I have to call on Friday. And if I don't make the number on Friday, then I'd have to call on a Saturday, and I'm not going to call on a Saturday. So I'm using it as a motivator. I actually like to take Fridays off if I can. But that I see what direction you're going there, and I think that it's a solid direction. Don't overthink it. It's just talking to people. That's all our job is.
Chris,
Great.
thank you so much. Mary Beth had to jump off, so she just wanted me to say thank you. And thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if you'd be willing to share your contact information, that would be fantastic too, if you want to just pop it into the chat.
Yeah, I welcome email or text message, and I'm always here to help. This is my favorite thing to talk about. And I really feel like somebody gave me a gift when they introduced the simplicity of what our job actually is. And so it's very important to me to give back. So if you have any other questions, or it's 3 weeks down the road and you just want someone to complain to of that it's really hard to actually talk to 10 people every day, text me. I'm here for you.
Thank you so, so much. We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Not a problem. You guys take care. Have a good day.
Chris, have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.